The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is no substitute for professional care by your doctor or your qualified healthcare professional. Never disregard or delay professional medical advice because of something you've heard on this podcast or in any linked material. Guests who speak on this podcast express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions. Dr. Shirley neither endorses nor opposes any particular opinion discussed on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, practice, institution, or other entity with which Dr. Shirley may be affiliated.
Welcome to Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty. This podcast is curated by Dr. Shirley Madere, MD, as the definitive source of holistic wellness through beauty.
Welcome to Forever Fab, the podcast dedicated to fashion, the art of living well, and all things beauty. I'm your host, Dr. Shirley Madere, your purveyor of this definitive source of living a beautiful life. This week's episode is dedicated to inner strength. And today's topic is, face it, what you eat affects how you look. This is my interview with Paula Simpson. Paula Simpson is a globally recognized nutritionist and product development expert. She has dedicated time and research to educating the wellness and cosmetics industries as to the importance of nutrition for natural beauty and healthy aging. Again, beauty from the inside out. Paula is a highly sought-after speaker and a media darling. She's appeared in outlets such as Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, Good Morning America, Telemundo, MSNBC, Fox News, and ABC, amongst many others. She's also been featured in Allure, In Style, Pop Sugar, Refinery 29, and more. And she recently published her own book called Good Bacteria for Healthy Skin, Nurturing Your Skin Microbiome with Pre- and Probiotics for Clear and Luminous Skin. And we'll dive deep into that a little bit later into this podcast. Welcome, Paula, and thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and for joining us on this podcast via Zoom. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
So we met many years ago. Do you remember how we met?
You emailed me about an article I wrote in Medical Aesthetics magazine, I think.
Yes, I did. That was pretty bold. And of course, I showered compliments on you. And I was like, yes, you get it. Great minds think alike. Let's get together. And that's how the love affair began.
Exactly. And that was about 10 plus years ago, I think.
I know. And for a 19-year-old, I wasn't so bad, right? And you were 18.
Exactly.
So let's dive into this podcast. I'm sure our listeners want to hear all about you and your book and all the things that you recommend. How did you arrive at nutrition and self-care? What was your journey? Why wellness? Why nutrition?
I was always interested in natural health. My grandmother would take me to the health food stores, and she was learning about nutrition through her healthcare practitioner. And I just remember being a little girl and following her around in these stores and looking, at the different foods and supplements, and so it was always a part of my life. And then as a competitive athlete in my teens, I became somewhat preoccupied with aesthetics and fad dieting, and realized eventually I was in charge of my own personal health. And so I have again always interested in health and active living, but I decided to study nutrition because if anyone's going to take care of themselves the best, it's you. And so that's what I went to school for.
Fantastic. Now, what competitive sport did you play?
I was a fitness professional. So in Toronto, I was a fitness instructor, a trainer. So it was always, around in my late teens. But earlier on, I was in dance. So, there was always something in body awareness or aesthetics or, being preoccupied or orthorexic to the foods you can or cannot consume. So, at a young age, and I mean, we still see it, it's just a part of society, really. You're being brought up to believe that you have to eat a certain way or look a certain way. And that kind of mentality or behavior, because I'm a bit OCD, wasn't good for me. So
only the best for you, Paula.
yeah. So I thought, okay, well, how am I going to fix this? Well, who better to fix it than if I understand exactly what nutrition does for you, for your health, for your inner and outer being. And that's how it started.
Great story. And I'm so glad that you did that. That whole being obsessed about what to eat and how to eat, I think it's even more pervasive now. I have my moments where I think, oh my gosh, what can I eat? What should I eat? It's pretty intense.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information overload, especially with nutrition and nutritional science.
Yes.
There's bad diets and quick fixes out there, and consumer or people in general are really becoming confused on what is healthy and balanced.
Yeah. So speaking of nutritional science, you studied nutrition and you are obsessed with aesthetics and looking great and feeling fabulous. Let's dive in a little bit more now into what you did with this degree. So what are nutraceuticals and why should we even bother to incorporate them into our beauty routines?
Well, nutraceuticals are otherwise known as dietary supplements, and they're really concentrated formulations or products to kind of superdose the body with certain nutrients to enhance or bring out a desired health effect. So, there's so many different claims or health benefits of different nutraceuticals and products, but my specialty really, it started actually in sports nutrition, went into weight management, and then into medical aesthetics. So again, there's always been some kind of aesthetic background or benchmark there. But so my focus with nutraceuticals and formulating is to bring out the best beauty from within. So to nourish and nurture the skin, fortify skin, hair, nails, body contouring, slimming, and things like that.
All sound great to me. Now, would you consider that category as cosmeceuticals to differentiate them from nutraceuticals?
Yeah, they're technically known, over the last 15 years or so as nutracosmetics. So that's kind of the global name. So nutritional cosmetics is what they're known as. And
do these nutritional cosmetics then therefore include prebiotics and probiotics?
Yeah, more recently, I wouldn't say so. 10 years ago, we were talking about antioxidants, which is, when we met, we were talking about, all the great primary antioxidants in the body to combat oxidative stress. Well, we've really come a long way in those 10 years that we've known each other, from antioxidants to collagen. And now it's really talking about the skin microbiome. And so pre and probiotics that help to kind of breed and flourish a healthy skin ecosystem through the gut and skin microflora.
Well, it's really very interesting because back when we met, the whole theory on aging was, oxidative stress and free radical damage. And now I think people are getting a little bit further away from that. And they're thinking, yes, there's oxidative stress and yes, there's free radical damage. But it's really more so cumulative damage from a number of things, oxidative stress, the pollution, the things you eat and you don't eat, et cetera. So now there's this more global theory on aging, which I think is appropriate because I think that that's really how it
happens.Absolutely. I agree 100%. It's cumulative and it's integrated. So it's not just about, what you're consuming, it's what you're exposing your body to through your lifestyle, through the environment, through the foods you consume. It is a holistic perspective in how you take care of yourself. And I think, back in the day, 10 years ago, we were only talking one stream and that was antioxidants, right? So, but there's so much more that you really can accumulate and accelerate the aging process.
You've worked with so many clients and companies to try to teach them to better understand, or even if they do understand it, at least to incorporate these theories on aging and this holistic approach that you speak of into their products and into their services. Now, do you find that the individual clients are focused on things that are different from what perhaps the consumers may focus on? How has that relationship been?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I do find that in some cases, there's the business objective and goal, and they see something, a brand or a formulation that's going to be so amazing that they believe is going to be a hit, right? The consumer just doesn't understand. So because I work B2B and B2C, in both business and consumers or both clients of mine, I try to bridge that messaging together. So, I see what the consumer is getting excited about and what they're really resonating to.
Right.
And I try to bridge that with the businesses that I work with.
Yeah, I think you've done a fantastic job. Have there been any clients or companies or ingredients that have been your favorite in the past to work with or currently?
Well, I mean, I'm a research bug. I mean, I love to see what the latest and greatest is in nutritional science and nutricosmetics and medical aesthetics, any of that, dermatology. So I tend to get excited about, the greatest studies done lately.
You're a nerd, Paula. I love it. I love your brain.
I am a nerd. I admit it. And I'm proud to be one.
Right. So am I. I love it.
So I tend to get excited at the science, and I watch that kind of track through and until it gets to the consumer. And a lot of the times that messaging, the scientist who's so brilliant and understands, and gets so excited about what they've been studying for the last few years, really can't relay that to the consumer or bring that language or messaging to them. So I track things, and then I try and bring it to the consumer in a nice, friendly way. But I wouldn't say there's anything in particular. I think there's a bit of an overhaul of and an overgeneralization a lot of the times, especially now. I mean, 10 years ago, we didn't hear much about nutricosmetics in North America, which you and I had many conversations about. Over the last 3 years, there's just been kind of an overflow of beauty or nutricosmetics, beauty supplements, to the point where it's just overgeneralized, right? And so you're starting to see a lot of marketing mix or kitchen sink formulations in some sense, really are just there to be on the trend. The trend,
just to be there.
Just to be there. So the ones that really go through the research, the quality, the validity of developing a product, and they're the ones that are here to stay. So there's a bit of an influx and a real dilution of nutricosmetics right now. But I would say, collagen is definitely one that has been opened the doors for consumer awareness. Why? Because you see benefits, in hair and nails more quickly than skin. We were talking about antioxidants 10 years ago. You weren't seeing the benefits as quickly. So there needs to be something visible there. And so when you're trying to teach someone when they're ingesting something through diet or supplementation, eventually they're going to want to see a benefit. And, unlike topical skincare, it takes a little bit of time. So there's a lot of education and talking about beauty, nutrition, and nutricosmetics over topical skincare. We're getting it. It's getting better. It's just there's a lot of noise out there right now.
Very true. It's so overwhelming to go to any beauty counter or any department store beauty section or Sephora, where Ulta, it doesn't matter. And it is absolutely overwhelming at the rows and rows and aisles and shelves of product.
Exactly.
Of product.
Yeah.
So you love research. You're a research bug. Would you say that this is one of the ways that you help the beauty industry to innovate? Like, how does the beauty industry innovate? And like, where do the new products come from? It really depends with the client or the company that you're working with. I mean, there's a lot of marketing and innovation firms out there that, spend months and tons of money on just looking at consumer market analytics and trends and, demographics. And, they'll spend tons of investment in time and funds just to prepare a product to go to market for clients, which is, really crazy in some ways, right? So especially if it doesn't work out for them. But, there's just, it really depends on the company that you're working with, the client.
I really try and go in and work on an advisory and more collaborative level. Look at the culture of the brand, the company, who's their target consumer, what are they trying to achieve, where are they getting their innovation and ideas from,
Right.
And what is realistic and potentially what is not realistic for them. And I try and steer them along or coach them along to build out a really great brand.
That's true. And I think you've done a fantastic job. There seem to be really a new beauty ingredient every month. Every time I pick up a magazine, there's a new beauty ingredient. I just read about one that's a more sensitive retinol alternative. And I just like to know who finds these ingredients and are they always sustainably sourced? And as a consumer, how do we know which one to pay attention to? Do you have a strategy for helping us through that?
I always look for transparency. So where is their amazing magic bullet ingredient coming from? Where was it found? How is it researched? So for me, I always look back to the science. That's my first go-to.
Yes.
How long has it been studied? Has there been human clinical trials? Safety, efficacy, quality control, sustainability. I think companies now are becoming more transparent due to consumer demand. They're looking for, I don't know if you've seen that, the documentary Toxic Beauty.
No, I've heard of it. I'm going to put it on my list, though.
Yeah, it's quite an eye-opener and really, looks at the consumer. We're becoming more educated. We have information at our fingertips, right? Information overload. But it's causing brands to become more transparent and really, disclose what's behind the label. It's not just the key ingredient anymore. It's like, well, what preservative or chemical was added to the formulation to give it shelf life and stability, or does it really need to be there? And we've heard about greenwashing. So, companies that, apparently are clean brands, health and beauty brands, but are really just, putting it under the rug, really not clean, right? In the
exactly.
sense of doing it for health. So the transparency of a company is really intriguing to me because, I have worked with some companies who have the highest standards and will not choose certain ingredients based on those standards for clean health and beauty.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they can be more challenging to work with as clients, looking for the perfect everything for them. Right. But the end product, there's so much more pride in delivering such a product, right? So you have companies that have ethics and of that standard, and then you have companies that maybe don't care as much.
Not so much. Exactly.
And then you have companies who really want to go back to kind of the ground roots, a holistic, natural, where have we come from? We've lived off the land, and really just taking it back to the basics. So there are so many different variations and companies out there. So I think it really depends on the demographic of where the brand or company is focusing on.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And one of the aspects of demanding more transparency by the consumer that I really appreciate is that now if you go to any product's website, you'll see a list of ingredients. And 10 years ago, you were not able to do that. Those ingredients were not listed in terms of what they do. Now, not only do you get the list of ingredients on their websites, but also you get what they're supposed to do and where they're sourced from. So I am really grateful about that. And I have a segment of this podcast called 15 Minutes of Fab. And that's where I review products and services. But when I do review the products, I give it a score, right, of 1 to 5. And in that score, I take into account whether or not it was sustainably sourced, whether or not it was a clean formulation, whether or not there's transparency on the website, and do we know where the stuff is coming from? So I agree with you. I think that transparency is really key, and it helps me to determine whether or not a brand is sort of formulated with some sort of integrity, right?
Exactly.
Paula, you've had so much experience with ingredients overall, and you have access to a tremendous amount of research. Let's take a peek into your beauty cabinet, and let me ask you, what are some of your favorite oral supplements and or topical creams, lotions, and potions? Let me have it.
Okay. Well, I think there's really maybe a trifactor component here. You have your antioxidants, which we know are important to combat oxidative stress.
Yes.
Some of the most promising ones, or the ones I like, are the carotenoids. Astaxanthin is a big one I like. So this really helps to combat the oxidative stress in the body, which is important for promoting healthy skin.
Yes.
Then you have the fortifying ingredients, so the collagen, biotin, silica, for example, just to kind of bring out strength in hair, nails, and protect skin collagen. So I think that's important. If I do take collagen peptides, I tend to choose marine over bovine. And there's also, vegan or plant-based formulations too that help to promote and boost your natural collagen production. And then, so we have antioxidants, we have fortifying ingredients, and then there's the whole gut health, skin health connection, right?
Yes.
And probiotics, which really help to flourish a healthy gut microflora, which helps to balance and maintain skin health. And, that's really what my book's about. So I'm quite excited about that. But the funny thing is I've been taking, pre and probiotics either through diet or supplementation for years, because it's really, it's always been a nutritionist. We're taught in nutrition school, it starts with digestion and gut. So if your gut is working well and healthy, then, the rest of the body is well.
I agree with you 100%. I love that. This is Paula's Beauty Trifecta. That is brilliant. And yes, I agree with you 100% that the gut is, like you said, the gateway to beautiful health and also beautiful skin, hair, and nails. So you wrote a book about this, and it is a fantastic book, and I recommend it to everyone who wants to, frankly, better understand how they work, who they are inside and out. So please pick up Paula's book. Paula, in your book, you provide thorough information on the microbiome. So let's explain what the microbiome is and why it's important to pay attention to the science of microbiome anyway.
Yeah, I mean, when I was first asked to write a book on, the title is called Good Bacteria for Healthy Skin, I was really confused just by the title alone, or the concept, right? Because we've always been taught, that germs are bad, or,
right.
They're bad. And yes, we do. There are pathogenic germs and pathogens that are harmful to us. We know that. But I really wanted to shift the thought and help people maybe rethink how they're taking care of their bodies and their skin, and that there actually are healthy bacteria, or these good microbes that are living, dynamic, and their whole goal is to protect your skin from the outside environment, the pollutants, the UV rays, the chemicals that you apply to your skin through cream and personal care. So this dynamic living ecosystem is living on your skin, which is a really freaky thing to talk about. And even writing it and doing the research on it, I mean, there's a part of me that was fascinated and a part of me that was like, ew, it's kind of weird, right? So, but these healthy, good bacteria are so critical to keep your skin balanced, and improve barrier function and protect it from the environment. And so the concept really of these little microorganisms or microbes is the target is to keep the good ones there. Yes. And resident good bacteria, the more you have of them, the healthier your skin, or the stronger your skin immunity can be against harmful pathogens or invaders that can damage skin. And because we really have become urbanized, over hygienic in certain ways, obsessed with products, right? I mean, we started with maybe, cleanse, tone, moisturize. Now there's like 10 steps, right? Right. So, what we're exposing our skin to, and these little microbes, these good bacteria, it's breaking down the health and balance of the skin. And so it's affecting skin immunity. It's increasing chronic skin conditions, adult acne, psoriasis, eczema, dandruff, lot of clinically validated studies showing that an imbalanced microbiome, skin microbiome, or dysbiosis of these microbes, increases the incidence of these conditions. So it's a really fascinating area of science that's quickly evolving.
Yes.
I really thought that, to help people kind of rethink and maybe look at how they're caring for their skin a little bit differently, I really wanted to write this book for that reason.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you did. After reading it, I thought, wow, this is really well needed, and it's so important. And the way that you approach the topic and the way that you've written the book, it really is quintessential, and that everyone read it, because everyone would be able to understand it and really incorporate some of those concepts that you write about. So thank you. And I do agree with you that we're overdoing it. And I am a beauty addict. I mean, verified. But I definitely think that we are overdoing it. It has served me, that concept of overdoing it and balancing and harmonizing the skin microbiome, because I sometimes see patients who come in with all sorts of skin irritations, and I'm not a dermatologist, but as a plastic surgeon, obviously my needle or my knife responds better to healthy skin. So when I see patients preparing for surgery and I'm looking at inflamed or irritated skin, I actually have told them to cut back on some of the overstripping, overdrying, over-moisturizing, over-treating products that they're applying to their faces, just to be able to allow the skin to rest and perhaps repopulate or restore that natural balance. So I agree with you that sometimes, and maybe I hate to say this, sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
Only when it comes to the microbiome, okay? And skincare products, not jewelry. Paula, again, regarding your book, you talk about the gut, and you talk about the gut being the gateway to skin health. But do the gut and the skin have different microbiomes? And if so, now, is this something else we're going to have to, have more products for, or look at and treat differently, the gut microbiome versus the skin microbiome? How do we wrap our heads around that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the gut microbiome is really influenced by what we consume, obviously, right? Through diet, supplementation. And, if we have a toxic diet, I think that's probably the easiest way to put it.
Yeah.
Those healthy gut bacteria can't survive, right? And these good bacteria, like I was talking with the skin, if they can't survive, then the gut is more vulnerable to harmful and pathogenic bacteria. Right. So when the gut microflora, or the gut microbiome is balanced and thriving and healthy, then it has the ability to communicate with the skin through immune receptors. So there's like a strong intercommunicative network between the gut and the skin.
Yes.
And when the gut microflora is healthy, then it can do its job and support the skin structure, function, and microbiome. So that there's a communication network between the two. So I think that's probably the easiest, simplest way to put it. I mean, it's much more complex.
Yes, no kidding. Well done.
But I do spend a chapter in my book just going through that. But specifically, certain foods have been shown to stimulate good bacteria or gut microflora. And those are, typical to the Mediterranean diet. Yes. So, high fiber, plant-based foods, less animal protein, for example. One of the things that surprised me was artificial sweeteners were actually very harmful to gut microflora and gut microbiome. So, really, again, simplifying, just like talking with the skincare, going back to kind of a whole clean-based diet that focuses mainly on Mediterranean type foods, has been shown, clinically validated, to support healthy gut microbiome and indirectly support skin health. A lot of these foods are key, have the healthy oils and whatnot that are key for healthy skin as well. So it's all interconnected. I mean, everything is integrated. It's not just one or the other. I mean, for years we've been told, treat topically, where really the roots come from within, right? The roots of how well you're nourished and how you're going to look on the outside.
That's right.
It's rooted from within, and it really starts with the gut.
Well, obviously you are taking your own advice, because your skin is flawless.
Thank you.
And
So
I don't, thank you. And I don't know about you, but for me to start on this, Mediterranean diet thing, that would involve a trip to the Mediterranean. So I could really, like dig deep, figure out
yes.
how they eat. Paula, in addition to this book, Good Bacteria for a Healthy Skin that you've written, and it's very well done. Congratulations. But you are so accomplished, and I should say, there's no but, and you are so accomplished. You've done so much in your life for yourself, for the beauty consumer, for companies, for your family. Let's get a little bit personal. And based on all of your accomplishments, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment that you are most proud of to date? Because believe me, I know there's more coming from you.
Wow, that is a hard question.
All the research, all the science, cake. But your greatest accomplishment, that's a hard one for you. You have so many.
Oh my goodness. My greatest, obviously having Sierra has been an amazing accomplishment.
Yes.
Your family is always first, but honestly, learning how to chill out and not take life so seriously. I think that has been the hardest lesson for me. I tend to be an overachiever, overthinker, and really taking a bit of my own medicine and what I've been talking about to people and just bringing it into my lifestyle. And it's okay to chill out once in a while, work-life balance, or just not be so high strung and trying to achieve it all at once. So I think that's been my biggest achievement.
Good for you.
But honestly, I'm really, I've always been a writer and writing articles and whatnot. So the book really does hit close to home for me because, it's something that I spent over a year researching and looking at clinical data and really trying to merge it and bring it into a consumer-friendly book that people can use and utilize for themselves. So I think that's probably been my biggest,
Good for you. Congrats again. And how do you teach your child about what to eat? That must be so tough.
Yeah, and being a girl as well.
Yes, and being a girl. So let's actually make that a two-pronged question, since she is a lovely, beautiful young lady. A, what do you teach her about how to eat? And B, what do you teach her about beauty?
Yeah.
Ay, right?
Yeah, it's we really have a close relationship, which helps,
Yes.
right? So she listens to mom in the sense that she'll listen to my advice, which is great.
Yeah.
Been through those teenage years, but I've never been. I've tried not to impose kind of orthorexic behaviors around food with her. So with kids, they often go on food jags or obsessions with certain foods for times and periods, but I was never really too restrictive with her in the sense if she wanted something, I'd let her have it, but always encouraging her to eat the healthier options, of course, made those healthier options available to her. So luckily for us, she was a very good eater. She loved, the vegetables, the fruits, and all these healthy foods. Wasn't a big sugar kid, which was great. So I got really lucky with that. With skincare, I think it was just, having fun with her, doing like, from when she was little, doing like, skincare routines together and, face masks and like looking at, now I take her into the beauty, like the Sephora's of the world, and we look at labels, and we look at ingredients.
Wow.
I took her to the documentary, the Toxic Beauty one, and really eye opener for her. And so now she's looking at like environmental working database and all those different cosmetic databases to see what ingredients are in her products that she's been using. So I think just teaching and educating and that way has probably been our best way that I've helped her.
Yeah, that's impressive. I actually didn't start looking at ingredients until I'm sure at least 10 years ago, well into my adulthood, but she's got quite the head start. That's fantastic. And I do agree. I think education is probably the most important, tool that you can arm someone with, especially a young woman.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, awesome. And the last two questions, one of them is called the Fast Five. So I'm just going to give you two options, and right off the top of your head, don't even think about it, just choose one. And then my last question will be the Fab 5. So let's do the Fast 5 first. So the first one, water or green tea, Paula?
Green tea.
Moisturizer or sunscreen?
Oh,
You're not supposed to think about it.
no. Moisturizer.
Okay, good. Prebiotic or probiotic?
Prebiotic.
Pre?
Yeah.
Got it. Pill or powder?
Pill.
And the last one, super greens or superpowers?
Greens.
I was superpowers all over that one. I was like, oh yeah, give me the superpowers because then I could just snap my fingers and get the super greens. Good answers, Paula. Those were fun. Now, the last one is called the Fab 5. All right. So what are your top 5 recommendations for living a holistically beautiful and fabulous life? I'll write them down.
Set 5 minutes a day. If that's all you have, an hour is even better, to yourself. Self-care is so important to kind of de-stress and focus and get through your day. You're more productive, you're happier, you're breathing, this is all going to show in how you look and feel. So take time for yourself.
Got it.
Green tea, yes. The more, the better.
1 cup, 2 cups?
2 to 5 cups. The research on gut microbiome, antioxidants for skin health, it just keeps going. Green tea for sure.
Okay.
So now it's 2.
Yes. Number 3.
Smoothies and juices. I love them. I dump everything into a smoothie in the morning.
So all your pills go into the smoothie.
Yeah, I got my greens, my berries, which are good for, cognition and skin health and the gut and all these things. I just dump it all in there. My collagen peptides, my prebiotics, Greek yogurt, it's all there. So I start my day off with everything in my smoothie. I love it. And then I feel good for the rest of the day. So smoothies, juicing, I love to juice, but I like to do it in between meals. Okay. So juicing 2 to 3 times a week and use it as an afternoon pick-me-up instead of the coffee. Grab a fresh juice. You're concentrating the body with nutrients, bringing the body and mind back to life.
Got it.
So how many is that?
4. You have 1 more.
Exercise, active living. And active living in the sense that not just going to the gym or going to do a yoga class, which we all love, so important, but getting outdoors. And I talk about that in my book too, is getting reconnected back with nature and getting into some green spaces versus gray spaces. And, that's so important, not only for your health and your skin microbiome, which we found, but your mind, breathing in that oxygen and fresh air and resetting yourself.
I love that. Gray spaces. We have a lot of gray space in New York City. I'm sure you're very well aware of that. All the times you have to come in for meetings or, book parties and launches and everything. You've seen the gray spaces here in New York City, right?
Yes, but you have that one big green space.
Yeah, we do have we have a lot of little green spaces, but you're right. We should take advantage. And I live near that big green space, and I don't get to it that often. Shameful. Paula, you've been amazing. And audience, dear audience, you've been listening to my tete-a-tete with Paula Simpson on beauty, wellness, nutrition, and her latest book. Please learn more about yourself by reading Paula's latest book about the microbiome and purchase her book. You can get it on Amazon. That's where I get a lot of my books. And the book is called Good Bacteria for Healthy Skin, Nurturing Your Skin Microbiome with Pre- and Probiotics for Clear and Luminous Skin. And clearly, clear and luminous skin is definitely an aspect of living a fabulous life. So thank you, Paula. Thank you, audience. I really appreciate your time and doing this by Zoom from Canada. All the best to you. I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
And as always, audience, stay fabulous inside and out. Thank you for listening to this week's Forever Fab podcast. Ciao. Or shall I say au revoir en français? Bye, Paula.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty, curated by Dr. Shirley Madere, MD. Live beautifully and help make the world a more beautiful place.